Praise be to God, there is no other God except God. In a few recent Friday sermons, we learned about how to collect and distribute Zakat, the obligatory charity, and we also focused more specifically on some of its subcomponents. And in this Friday sermon, let's elaborate on the cycle or schedule of Zakat. So here is how it works. Whenever a submitter joins, they report the regular Zakat or the Zakat pledge. They cannot join without reporting it. One lunar year later, the congregation director ensures that the submitter receives an email reminder to do it again. The submitter doesn't have to remember when the next due date comes next year. The congregation director should remind him again in the next lunar year, and he gives him 10 days to report it. And the 10 or 11 days comes from the fact that the lunar and the solar year have that difference in length. And it's on purpose like that, to show that God gives people a tolerance of 10 days to delay their zakat and still be acceptable. So when it comes to the regular zakat, the yearly cycle for it, traditionally and correctly so, has started on the day when the person became a submitter, and then it was repeated every 354 days, with a potential delay up to 365 days, just to give people some flexibility to make the transactions and so on. And this is about the regular 2.5% zakat. Now, when it comes to penalty zakat, in the past, it was done in ad hoc individual basis. For example, when a person confessed a particular sin to Muhammad would tell him to pay a penalty zakat on that day, unless there were complications, in which case they would do it as soon as possible. So Muhammad, or whomever Muhammad appointed, dealt with each person on an individual basis, at the time when they approached him regarding that issue. And this was done so because the times of when each submitter would confess a sin for which they had to atone through penalty zakat varied. However, today there are some sins or mixed deeds which are common among a large number of us. Basically, they are year-long sins within mixed deeds which happen with a large number of us all at the same time. For example, the sin within the mixed deed of living together with non-submitters, or the sin within the mixed deed of working in a job which is not completely in agreement with the Quran. And these did not happen in the past before democracies, because before democracies, people did not have jobs as we do today. They were either free people who did not have to work, or a submitter slave within a submitter family, or a non-submitter slave within a non-submitter family. But people did not have jobs like we do today, where each person in that company can belong to a different religion. Also, before democracy, submitters did not live in the same house with non-submitters. There were disbelievers and hypocrites within families, but either all of them confessed submission, or none of them confess submission within a family. But today, these two things of living within families and working within companies, where each person is allowed to have a different religion, this happens today on a regular, year-long basis with a large number of us. And for this reason, it is more practical for the congregation director to deal with all of them together on yearly basis, to keep easier track of them and to make sure that nothing is forgotten. And again, here the congregation director can choose to use the lunar or the solar year, but since most of us use the solar year for other business purposes anyway, let's just use the solar year for this also. And this helps to arrange the cycle of penalty zakat for all people at the same time, without them having to learn a new calendar. So when the new year starts, during the first days of January, the congregation director sends an email to everyone separately to ask us to report the amounts of penalty zakat, which we owe regarding the previous year, if we have any. We are given 1 week to reply to it. We must be given 1 week to reply to ensure that one Friday has passed since they received the email, because submitters are supposed to be in contact as a group once a week. So this ensures that every submitter has seen the email and reported what their penalty zakat should be for the previous year. Or the congregation director informs the submitter for the amounts which he is already aware of. Then the congregation director informs us where we should send the penalty zakat. And each congregation director can decide differently about where they think would be the best way to send the money. And then he simply informs us where to send it exactly. There is no need to ask him where to send it. The congregation director will inform you, God willing, at the soonest when he can make a proper arrangement for it. And then after he informs you, you can send the money at any time within that calendar year. So anytime until the 31st of December. It's better to do it earlier rather than leave it for the end of the year to make sure that you don't forget, and also because the Quran says that the believers compete in doing righteous deeds. So for example, for the year of 2023, all the sins within the mixed deeds which have been reported and written down, the submitters are allowed to pay for them anytime during the next year, during 2024. And then for the sins within the mixed deeds which submitters did during 2024, they can pay for them anytime during 2025. And so that cycle continues during every year. And within that cycle, when December of each year arrives, the congregation director sends an email reminder to anyone who has not given the penalty zakat so far, just to make sure that they have not forgotten by accident. But the deadline for paying the penalty zakat is the 31st of December. Anyone who does not pay it by that date stops being a submitter and is removed from the list of submitters.